Sudan says it has prevented an attempted coup d'etat which sought to unseat the transitional government. It started in a military camp but was quickly crushed, according to reports. Authorities blame supporters of ex-President Omar al-Bashir, who was pushed out 2 years ago after 3 decades of rule.
Had it succeeded, the attempt could have had devastating consequences on the unity of the army, security forces, and the country.
The failed bid highlights how fragile the transition still is in Sudan. There are divisions between civilians and the military who share power. The government launched unpopular economic reforms, so the International Monetary Fund will reduce its debt. Sudanese took to the streets recently to protest against rocketing inflation. He saved more than 1,000 people during the genocide in 1994. His story inspired the Hollywood blockbuster Hotel Rwanda. But the government says he plotted against them. And this week, Paul Rusesabagina was sentenced to 25 years imprisonment on terrorism charges. On Monday, the Supreme Court said he had founded and was a member of the National Liberation Front, a rebel group blamed for deadly attacks in 2018 and 19. Rusesabagina has boycotted the trial since March and was not in court with his co-defendants. His supporters say the trial was politically motivated because of his vocal criticism of President Paul Kagame. His daughter accused Kagame of kidnapping her father.
My father was illegally detained before this verdict. He is illegally detained today and tomorrow. After this verdict, he will still be illegally detained. So our campaign continues. We're not discouraged by this verdict. It means nothing to us. It was not a fair trial and no credible evidence was put forward.
Rusesabagina lived in exile in the US and Belgium since 1996. He was arrested in murky circumstances last year. Guinea's junta is digging in its heels. The military rulers refuse to release ex-President Alpha Condé, who they overthrew on September 5, despite demands by regional mediators. They refuse to promise elections in 6 months, as requested by presidents from Ghana and Ivory Coast, sent by the Economic Community of West African States, known as ECOWAS. Coup leader Mamadi Doumbouya styles himself president. A spokesman said the colonel insists the Ghanaian people should decide their own destiny.
The President of the Republic reminded his guests that it was important that ECOWAS listen to the legitimate aspirations of the Guinean people.
The junta enjoys widespread support amongst the people. It allowed the return from exile of 4 prominent opposition figures who had mobilized against Condé's bid for a 3rd term in office. Thousands of people gathered at Conakry's International Airport to welcome back the exiles. The deposed leader won re-election in October last year amid deadly protests.
You slice the fish in half, season with salt, then brush it with the sweet pepper imported from Ethiopia. Once marinated, put it in a traditional oven. 15 minutes of cooking and it's ready to eat. This is how to prepare fish Yemeni style. The dish is a national institution, except this is Djibouti.
It reflects the Djiboutian identity. It's a recipe imported from Yemen that we have appropriated and which is part of our culinary tradition.
Abubakar Musa is a former celebrity journalist on national television. 2 or 3 times a month he visits this restaurant quite famous in Djibouti city. It has also become a family tradition. His granddaughter Sohan, who lives in Belgium, was not fond of fish until her grandfather converted her.
He got me to try it and then told me it was Djiboutian fish. You have to taste it. If you don't eat it in this restaurant, you haven't come to Djibouti. You have no proof of coming to Djibouti. I tried it and I liked it a lot. And every time I come to Djibouti, he brings me here and I'm so happy.
The recipe is passed down from father to son. In the restaurant Sheikh Hamdani, it's a family affair. Omar's grandfather migrated to Yemen and settled in Djibouti in the 1920s. He brought the recipe from Yemen and started the restaurant. Omar is now the third generation to run the eatery. Local neighbors and celebrities alike enjoy a meal here for 1,000 Djiboutian francs, fewer than $6.
It's not an expensive dish, it's a simple dish, accessible to everyone. From small to young to old, everyone has access to it.
A few kilometers away, in the working-class district of PK12, this dish brings a feeling of home to Amin Maktal, who fled the war in his country, Yemen.
As long as I am in this restaurant, eating here, surrounded by my compatriots, I feel good, because everything I had in Yemen, I have it here.
It is a little surprise that Yemeni cooking made it across the Gulf of Aden to this tiny coastal nation nestled between Africa and Arabia. But it is perhaps ironic that this fish recipe is so big here. Back home, it is simply one among many others.